Bay. I don't know what's going on. We're finally live. Monday problems on a Thursday. That's all that I can attribute it to. Thanks, StreamYard. We appreciate it. Good morning to everybody. I appreciate everybody tuning in. Of course, obviously, if we could get you on the Facebook, if you're on the Twitter, hop on over to the YouTube, jump on there, hit the old thumbs up button, help us continue to grow this bad boy as we plunge forward and ahead, full force and full throttle here at Channelside. D-Day is coming. D-Day is coming for the NFL. 53-man rosters are due in 5 days. Obviously, we're going to get through the weekend. Buccaneers wrap up their preseason against Indianapolis Colts, who fell short with the Detroit Lions. I don't know if that really means anything. Plus preseason, I mean, come on, let's be realistic here. Preseason doesn't necessarily mean anything in terms of wins and losses. At least we hope it doesn't for us in Bucs Nation. The Rays are absolutely surging. They're on fire. Who knows what is going to happen in the American League right now, in terms of where it's going to play out. Obviously, we know that the Yankees are still commanding their lead. However, it's only a 7.5 game lead now. It is down from 8 to 7.5. Obviously, the Yankees are on a win streak of their own. The Rays are they're the hottest team in baseball right now. I mean, let's let's keep it going. Will the NBA crack down on summer league play outside of summer league? So like Pro-Ams, playing overseas. Is the NBA going to cut back on it with the news of Chet Holmgren likely having a severe foot injury? We're going to talk about that. If you guys ever have any questions or you pop up some good comments, and we'll chop that up and we'll talk about it live today. I will be running solo today. So without further ado, let's hop into the show. Here we are. We're going to pop this up one more time. We're going to look here. Here's the Bucs depth chart as it stands currently heading into Saturday's final preseason game. I know some people are saying that, there could be a lot of movement. I don't know where I would see the movement outside of possibly seeing Rashad White bumped up in the depth chart because he's a solid blocker. Shaq Mason's going to start. Tristan Wirfs is going to start. Obviously, Ryan Jensen's not going to start, but he may only be out for 6 weeks or so. He may miss 5-6 games. The diagnosis is still not out there yet, guys. So we don't know exactly when Ryan Jensen is going to be at, because we don't know what the severity of the injury is. They're still waiting to get a full diagnosis on that knee. Luke Gedeke, is he going to start at left guard? I think he's going to win the starting left guard job. And I know I've talked about this. I talked about it yesterday. I talked about it earlier in the week. I think Luke Gedeke wins the starting left guard position because Nick Leverett is too valuable at other positions on the field. And that to me is where you want to be if you're Nick Leverett. You don't take it as a slight. That's what I was saying. If you're Todd Bowles, you need to look Nick Leverett in the face and say, I know you think you earned the starting job, but here's why you are not going to be our starting left guard. And it has nothing to do with a lack of talent, a lack of progression, a lack of consistency. It has nothing to do with any of that. But the reason why you're not going to start is because we may need you in 3 different positions throughout the season. We're not really sure yet. Donovan Smith obviously is going to start. Josh Wells is not going to beat Donovan Smith. Although it's a little crazy to me when you talk about Donovan Smith largely earning a starting position, because it wasn't that long ago when everybody wanted Donovan Smith cut and gone from the team. And it's ironic, isn't it? It's ironic when we've got somebody like a Donovan Smith who has just progressed beyond belief. And it's really cool to see, especially for a guy like Donovan Smith, who is super cool. As you see, D-Day is coming. That's what we're calling it. The Buccaneers made an interesting signing yesterday. And Jannard Avery, formerly of the Pittsburgh Steelers, who was cut. He's had a very good camp for the Steelers. The thing that's interesting to me about the signing of Avery is why. Being totally honest, like why? Why did we go out and sign another linebacker? And maybe it's a value sign, because if you go to any Pittsburgh Steelers beat website, whether it's Steelers Depot, whether it's a fan-sided SB Nate, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what Steelers beat website you go to. Everybody was surprised at the release of Avery. That could largely be in part why they signed him, because it could be a value signing and going, hey, this guy, we're not sure why he was released, but he was released. We've got essentially $6.5 million in cap space. He was not going to be a starter in Pittsburgh. So what the hell? Let's go ahead. Let's sign him. Now, I know a lot of people, and I think I'm in the same group. A lot of people are looking at this signing and going, okay, cool signing, wrong side of the ball. And I can't help but agree with that to a certain extent, because we've talked about the offensive line, and I don't want to say it looks like Swiss cheese. I know that's also a popular phrase right now when we're talking about the offensive line. It's not a Swiss cheese offensive line, but it could use some bolstering. And by using bolstering, what I mean is just warm bodies. That's what this offensive line needs. Is the offensive line needs more warm bodies. If you're not starting Nick Leverett over Luke Gedeke because he is going to rotate in multiple positions, that's not I don't think that's a situation that you want to be in. You don't want to be starting Luke Gedeke because he is better at left guard than he is at right guard, and he hasn't taken any snaps at center, where obviously we know Robert Hainsey's starting the season, but here's Nick Leverett has also taken snaps at center. He's also taken snaps at left guard and at right guard. He's going to be used all over the offensive line, and that's the reason why he's not going to start. And I said at the top of the show, that's good, right? It's nice. It's nice that you have a Swiss Army knife like Nick Leverett where you can plug and play him. But it's not nice when you have to not start him because you'll probably need to plug and play him when you had the opportunity of not needing to do that. But you went out and signed a linebacker. Now, I know our scouting team is fantastic. We're great at finding diamonds in the rough and finding talent. But we need to do... I think we need to address that line. I know Todd Bowles says that they're comfortable with the guys that they have, that there's not really anybody that's available. And when he says that, I can't help but trust him. I can't help but say, you know what? I know a lot of people will talk about the Tom Brady situation, which we're going to get into again. But just like when he was telling us, I don't have a firm date of Tom Brady's return, I'm not worried about when Tom Brady will return. I know Tom Brady is going to return. There was no reason to not trust Todd Bowles at his word. So now is Todd Bowles, is he sitting here telling us, hey, we haven't signed anybody that's in free agency to bolster our offensive line because there's nobody available? And if Todd Bowles is telling us that, there's no reason for me not to believe that. There's no reason for me to not trust Todd Bowles at his word. because he had every opportunity in the world to lie to us about Tom Brady. And he didn't. He literally told us every single thing that he knew and what was going to happen. And there was nothing. There was never any wavering. There was never any second guessing. There was never any reason to doubt what Todd Bowles was telling us with Tom Brady. So as much as I would like to see somebody come in, whether it's a center, whether it's a left guard, doesn't matter. If Todd Bowles says that they don't like anybody that's out there, then we have to take it as at face value. There is also there is that small chance that he's playing Bruce Arians right now. There is the small chance that he is sitting there going, if I devalue everybody that's sitting on the free agent market, when Jason gets on the phone with agents, he could say, hey, we're just going to throw out a feeler. We're not necessarily that interested. But hypothetically, if you were to come back, if you were to come and sign with the Bucs and make a run at the Super Bowl, because we're still the second favorite to win the Super Bowl and second favorite behind an AFC team. So do you want to play in a Super Bowl? At the very least, do you want to play in a Super Bowl? Here's what we have to offer. It's possible. It's entirely possible that that's what's going to happen. And it would be smart. It would be a very smart move for them to do that. Like it would be very smart. Will they do it? I don't know. I don't know if that was the method behind it, or if Todd Bowles is literally sitting there going, we're fine. We got good guys. And I'm not saying that we don't have good guys. Robert Hainsey is capable. Luke Gedeke, Nick Leverett, Shaq Mason, obviously we know is capable, but Luke the Lifter, Nick Leverett, Robert Hainsey, they're all capable guys. And it's not a knock on these guys. It's hey, we might need to get a better person in rotation. If we look at who our third stringers are, is there somebody out there available that is better than who is third string? Because that third string is currently second string in some of these positions. What happens if Luke strains a hamstring? If Luke cramps up? And Robert Hainsey cramps up. It's possible. It's happened before where multiple guys go down at the same time. Are we really going to sit here and here? I'll pull this depth chart back up. Are you really going to tell me that if Robert Hainsey is out and Luke goes down, even if it's for like 3-4, even if it's for a series, if we lose two guys for a series, where does Nick Leverett play? You can't play both center and left guard. Are you telling me that you're going to be okay with Hutcherson playing? He's third string for a reason. Hutcherson coming in and playing against first team defenses is the same thing as saying, you know what? We're going to play Kyle Trask instead of Tom Brady today. So you've got to watch out for that. You've got to plan ahead. And, you know, some of this does feel like flying by the seat of their pants. But also at the same time, if we're being realistic, there's no reason for us not to trust what they're telling us and not to trust their evaluations. There's a hell of a lot of weapons on this offense. And the defense, I'm not concerned with the defense in the least bit. You know, we had a lot of people going, yeah, but we really need to sign Sue. We really need to bring back JPP. No, we don't. We don't really. You know, Logan Hall is going to take a little time to develop. I still liked the pick. I called the pick before the draft. I was glad that they didn't have to trade up to get him, that he just fell into their lap. I think he's going to pan out. You know, it might take a little while. He's not going to be he's not a top 10 pick that comes in and is already basically game ready. He's gonna take a little bit of time to pan out, but he's gonna play. That's where we are with Logan Hall. But the defense is not really a question. Sure, there could be some changes. There could be some rotations, but between a second string, third string. I think all of the starters obviously are without question. I don't see Sean Murphy Bunting losing his starting job to Jamel Dean, but it's possible. Jamel Dean has had we know what we're getting with Jamel Dean. Sean Murphy Bunting, we know what we're getting, but he was also injured for the majority of last season as well. So I'm not saying that he's going to become injury prone, but I'm just saying like Jamel Dean got a lot of time because Sean was injured. So when we look at like who is going to make this roster, there's for me the hardest question is at wide receiver. And I know we talk about wide receiver a lot. We talk about wide receiver very, very frequently on this show. But it's a good problem to have when you've got all of these guys. Scotty Miller talked to us yesterday at the press conference following training camp about his mindset fighting for his job heading into the last preseason game. And his mindset is the same. This is a guy that he's not new to the league. He's been in the league for a while, and sure, he's mainly been used as a burner, but that's not necessarily his call, right? That's the offensive scheme. That's the playbook. That's the line. Like that's how the coaches valued him at that particular time. He has shown us, especially this training camp, that he has an arsenal. And I know a lot of people want him to make the team. I would love Scotty Miller to make the team. I think he is a good person to be around. I think he's a polarizing player in terms of how much fans like him. I think that you've got to look at a Scotty Miller and go, man, I really hope he makes this roster. The way Tyler Johnson has played, I think Tyler Johnson really already kind of solidified himself on making the team. That basically wraps up 5 of your wide receiver positions. Probably going to play 6, maybe 7. If you have 7, I think Scotty Miller makes the team without question. Does he make the team if you're going 6? I don't know. And that's where the question is. Jalen Darden hasn't looked that great. Scotty Miller hasn't looked that great. The difference is Jalen Darden hasn't looked that great, but he's been given opportunities, where Scotty Miller hasn't looked great, largely because he's kind of invisible out there, especially in these preseason games. He's kind of an invisible man out there. He's not really getting targeted. I haven't watched it and tried to hone in specifically on Scotty Miller. So is it like he can't get open? Is it that he is, third or fourth in his reads and Kyle Trask can't get that far because the offensive line hasn't done that great in protecting him? You just don't know. There's a lot of questions at the wide receiver, but I'm pretty confident saying that there's 5 spots already. There's 5 spots: Evans, Godwin, Jones, Gage, and Johnson. Cyril Grayson's a burner. Could be a punt return. Jalen Darden could be the punt return. Devin Tompkins could be a punt returner. There's guys that could make the team as a returner. Scotty Miller's not going to be a return man. If Scotty Miller's going to make this team, he's got to make the team as a wide receiver 6. Is that going to be over Perryman? You got to remember, man, the last time Brashad Perryman was here, when both Evans and Godwin were injured, he stepped up big. And he earned himself payday when he went to Baltimore. It's not his fault that Baltimore's a run-first team and he didn't look that great. Baltimore doesn't get wide receivers, and they don't utilize their wide receivers. He went to Detroit too late. If he went to Detroit before he went to Baltimore, I honestly believe that Brashad Perriman would have still had a job and he would not have been released, but he was. Good for the Bucs. Yes, definitely. He was a good signing because you know what you're going to get with Brashad Perriman. What we've seen at game in terms of game tape and game film, I think Brashad Perriman has a higher upside than Scotty Miller does. Just based off of what we've seen in the games. Now, what we've seen in training camp, I want to see Scotty Miller perform like that in a game. Because the Buccaneers just haven't utilized him in that sense. So that's what I want to see. I want to see Scotty Miller coming in, running slant. Because he told us directly at training camp, I want to show the world what I can do, that I'm not just a go route guy. And he's showing us he's got very good hands. He can run a wide array of routes. He's shown us all of that in training camp. So hopefully he becomes the wide receiver 6 and he makes the squad. But it's so difficult to tell. And I feel like a lot of us that are pulling for Scotty Miller are just pulling for him because he is Scotty Miller. We'll have to see. 5 days. 5 days from now, we'll know. We will absolutely know. And obviously, we'll probably talk about it again tomorrow because somebody's going to ask some questions, and that's fine. That's why we do this. We host these shows so we can talk to you guys. You guys can tune in, and we can all just kind of grow and enjoy what we do all together. As we move forward, Forbes annual franchise valuations have come out. No surprise to anybody. The Dallas Cowboys at $8 billion. They're $1.6 billion more valuable than the New England Patriots. It's such a crazy amount. For those that are wondering, where did the Buccaneers fall? The Buccaneers are 27th. They're at like $3.6 billion, which is still good, but like, man, the Jets, the Commanders, like it's just crazy to me. And when I look at this list, here's one thing that stands out to me. Because a lot of us, myself included, a lot of people will sit there and go, why is the NFC East always getting talked about? Why are they always getting so much publicity, etc.? There's your reason why. That's why the NFC East gets so much publicity. Cowboys are number 1. Giants are number 4. Commanders are 6. Eagles are 10. That's why. That is why the NFC East gets so much publicity, is because they are the valuable franchises, which means that they've got the most rabid fan bases. I understand, like, and all of these teams that are listed here, they've all got rich histories. You know, the Rams are obviously much higher now because they're in Los Angeles. If the Rams were still in St. Louis, the Rams are not in the top. Definitely not top 3. Top 10? Maybe 10. But definitely not in the top 3 if they're still in St. Louis. But they're in LA. They're in the second largest market in the world, in Los Angeles. So when you ask yourself and you go, okay, well, so like what's the Tom Brady effect? Tom Brady effect off the field in terms of like the franchise valuation. And I think it largely has to do with the fact that he hasn't been here that long. Obviously, the Patriots are the second most valuable franchise because Tom Brady was there for 20 years. Like, he is a large reason why that franchise is so valuable. If Tom Brady is in New England for 20 years and he's not good and they don't win 6 Super Bowls in New England, that's why the New England Patriots are in the second position. And the Bucs are still new, man. In terms of like when you look at that top 10, the Bucs are way newer than all of them. It's not even close. Bucs haven't even been in the league for 50 years yet. So you got to look at things like that. And that's the realistic aspect. Is it a little shocking that they're 27th most valuable? Sure. But they also have one of the lowest operating costs. It's like $63 million. I think only the Lions and one other team are lower in terms of operating costs. But that's good. Glazers are keeping more of their money. I don't know what's going on with Manchester United. I don't follow the English Premier League. All I know is that anytime I post anything about the Buccaneers, our Twitter account gets absolutely spammed with Manchester United fans saying, Glazers out, Glazers out. I don't know what that means. I don't know if the Glazers are bad soccer owners, your football. Sorry for those that are listening. I don't want to piss you off any more than you already are. But I don't know what the gripe is with the Glazers. And I've tried to ask. Like, I don't want to Google search it. If you comment on my social media stuff and I ask you a question, like, what the hell, man? You should be responsive. Like, that's what social media is. It's social networking. We're supposed to network and communicate together. So if you're coming on my stuff and you're coming on the Channelside Sports account and you're just spamming us with Manchester United, get the Glazers out of the ownership, sell the team stuff, and I ask you why you're saying this and your response is more memes, like, I hope the Glazers keep Manchester United forever at that point. That's your own fault. What are you griping about? I can tell you right now that there's not a single Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan that gives a crap about what the Glazers are doing with a soccer team in England. Guarantee you that. Unless it happens to cross paths that they're a fan of Manchester United. But I would be willing to bet that they're more of a fan of the Buccaneers than they are the Manchester United, and they couldn't care any less. That's the facts. But thank you nonetheless for continuing to spam our Buccaneers posts with make the Glazers sell. I'm fine with that. The Masked Singer rumors, guys. We're still talking about the Masked Singer. The rumors aren't going to die. And look, there was a clip that leaked out of Dr. Ken, Ken Jeong, trying to guess one of the players' names or guess who was singing. Guess who was under the mask. And now, if you've watched the show, they give like clue packages and all of this stuff. And there was we didn't see the clue package. We only saw where Dr. Ken was sitting there going, well, based off of what we know, based off of you being a champion, it's either, I think it's going to be Peyton Manning. Then, of course, does Dr. Ken thing, says, yeah, I mean, you look kind of like Peyton Manning because it's, I don't know, it's like a giraffe or some sort of like alien giraffe with a big ass forehead. And we get it. Peyton Manning's got like a 12 head. We get it. Those jokes to me will never get old anyway. And then he says, well, maybe it's Tom Brady. And Dr. Ken goes as far as saying Tom Brady was fine for skipping training camp to be here. It's Tom Brady. Whoa. We're going all in if we're Fox here. So Fox is not doing itself any justice. But it's also a smart move. It's a very smart move. Because here's the thing is, for the vast majority of the offseason, and especially ever since Deshaun Watson got traded to Cleveland, who's dominated all of the headlines? Who is the most talked about person? What is the most talked about story in the entire NFL? And it's not even close, and it's Deshaun Watson. Obviously, there's a reason why it's a very important story. But I think everybody is getting a little tired of just hearing about it. And Tom Brady taking a leave of absence, whether it's a family vacation, whether it's the Masked Singer, Tom Brady took over, and Tom Brady dominated the headlines for missing training camp, for not being there for preseason. He wasn't going to play anyway, so what the hell, right? But he dominated the headlines. Tom Brady took over as the biggest story from Deshaun Watson and all of his sexual allegations and his suspension and his fine and the NFL's appeal. He took over all of that simply from missing training camp because he's Tom Brady. And that's what happens when you're that famous. When you're as famous as Tom Brady is, like, you sneeze too many times in a row and you're going to dominate the headlines. Does it matter if Tom Brady was on The Masked Singer or not? It doesn't. It doesn't matter if he was on The Masked Singer or not. It doesn't matter if he was shooting a movie or if he was shooting commercials for TB12. It doesn't matter what Tom Brady was doing. When you're signing contracts to obligate yourself to things, you're not signing contracts to obligate yourself to something that you're going to do tomorrow. That's for people like you and I. That's what happens. When can you start work? I could start tomorrow. Sign. Done. When you're a multi-million-dollar athlete and you are the greatest of all time at your position in the National Football League, you're signing deals months in advance and months out. Period. That's what you're doing. Tom Brady was retired for over a month. You can't tell me he didn't sign something. He signed up to do something else. He signed up for a $300+ million deal with Fox to be an announcer. I'm sure he signed up to do something else. You can't tell me that he didn't do it. So when people are sitting here, and if Tom Brady is on The Masked Singer, or if Tom Brady pops up on Subway commercials, we can't get angry and go, he skipped training camp for this, because you know it's going to happen. You know somebody's going to sit there and go, oh my God. When Tom Brady's going to throw his first interception of the year, and there's going to be some dummy or multiple dummies on social media that are sitting there going, well, he should have focused more on football this offseason. If he wasn't so busy singing or doing commercials, he wouldn't have thrown that interception. Happens every time. If you don't believe me, go join a Cleveland Browns group and listen to the fans just derail him. Him being Baker Mayfield. Well, he should have focused on doing more commercials then. That's why he threw that interception. Yeah. That's why Tom Brady threw an interception, is because he signed obligated deals while he was retired. That's why he threw that interception. Yes. You are right, armchair GM, guy who's never played a professional snap in his life. You are correct. That is why Tom Brady threw that interception. That's why Tom Brady had that fumble or that bad read, is because he signed a deal to miss training camp while he was retired. We've got to relax with the weirdness. You've got to... These people are human beings at the end of the day. And that's what it boils down to. Tom Brady doesn't have to come to training camp. He does because he's a competitor and he's a good teammate. Right? If the Buccaneers knew in advance that Tom Brady was going to miss time like they've been telling us, and they've remained steadfast and they've remained unified, it's largely because he booked a family vacation. It's largely because he signed a contract to do something before he said, you know what? I'm not ready to retire. I want to come back. I have unfinished business. I want to go again for another Super Bowl. Look at this stacked Buccaneers team. But thank you to everybody who is dominating the headlines with the Masked Singer comments. I don't care if it's annoying. I will take Tom Brady Masked Singer rumors any day of the week and twice on Sunday over hearing any more about the Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson's NFL storyline is over. You could talk about whatever you want, but we don't need to talk about Deshaun. His suspension is there. His fine is there. Whether you think it's enough, not enough, whatever, that's fine. But we've talked about that long enough, and it's time to move on. And if we have to talk about the Masked Singer and give Nick Cannon and Jenny McCarthy and who else is on there? I don't know. Nicole Scherzinger. I think that's how you say her last name. If we got to give all of these guys some publicity and talk about the Masked Singer, I'm all for it because I'm tired of hearing about Deshaun Watson. Am I tired of hearing about the Masked Singer? I am. But here we are, and I'd rather talk about this than I'd rather talk about Deshaun Watson and his weird tendencies to book massage therapists and do or do not do things with them. I don't care what side of the fence you're on. Whatever. I'm done with it. Let's move on. Speaking of moving on, holy hell, guys. The Rays are back. Actually, the Rays aren't back. The Rays have not been this hot all season. The Rays won their 5th straight. Sugar Shane is back on the mound looking like a man possessed. He's finally looking like he is not human again. He is back to form. He had 9 strikeouts. And, by the way, Shane McClanahan hit the century mark on a pitch. He's 3rd in the running in the Cy Young. He's kind of crept back into it. And if this is the Shane McClanahan that is going to finish the remainder of the season, he should be the Cy Young winner for the American League. And I love Justin Verlander, but you can look at any chart. You can look at any metric. You can look at stats. You can look at whatever you want. And Shane McClanahan is the better pitcher than Justin Verlander is. The only thing that separates them is record because the Astros are a better team currently than the Tampa Bay Rays are. That's the only real reason why that conversation is kind of slanted and the odds are in Verlander's favor as he's the favorite. But Shane McClanahan is the better pitcher. And that's an unbiased take because there's the stats, there's the charts, and all of these things. You have multiple outlets to where you can sit there and go, yeah, Danny's not lying to us. Danny's not being a homer. He's not being crazy. He's not talking sideways. There are actual charts out there that show without a shadow of a doubt that Shane McClanahan is the best pitcher in the American League. Now that he's back to form, now he can prove it. Now he can make his claim and his case to be the American League Cy Young winner. After last night, the Rays jumped back up in their playoff odds. They're at 83%, which is fantastic. Guys, it was, 2 weeks? It was just 2 weeks ago that the Tampa Bay Rays were in the 40s. 2 weeks ago, the Tampa Bay Rays were in the mid 40s in terms of their percentage to make the playoffs. And now an 83% chance. This is what happens when you're the hottest team in baseball. I said it yesterday. I'll say it again today. The Tampa Bay Rays are the most dangerous team in baseball currently because they're being overlooked. They're being undervalued and they're getting it all together and it's showing on the field. I don't care what teams they're playing. You play who you're scheduled. And if you're beating the teams that you're scheduled to play, doesn't matter if it's the Yankees, it doesn't matter if it's the Tigers. It could be the bottom barrel team, but if you're getting the wins and you're making them convincing, sure, last night was 11 innings. You're going to have those though. Chargois got back on the mound. Like you're going to have it's going to happen, but a win is a win at the end of the day. They don't make their schedule. So if they got a 4-game series against the Angels and a 4-game series against the Royals, and sure, whatever. Doesn't matter. You play who you play. That's how the schedule is built. That's how you play. The Red Sox are still wavering, which is nice. They've lost 3 in a row. Obviously, we know that the Rays have the Red Sox after this series. So actually starts tomorrow night. No, look at that. When you say stuff that is close to the S word, all of your Apple equipment just goes freaking bananas, and it's super annoying. But she didn't understand what I was saying. The Red Sox and the Rays start tomorrow. I would love to see both streaks stay alive. Obviously, we have to get through today. And it's definitely possible. This is the bottom of the rotation for the Angels. And of course, we've got Drew Rasmussen, who was dealing lights out the last time he was the starting pitcher on the mound. Almost had a perfect game. Almost. It was super close against the Orioles. Didn't get it done, unfortunately. But we could be looking at a team heading into the Red Sox because the Blue Jays have looked good. We got to give the Blue Jays credit. The Blue Jays have looked good. They're on a win streak of their own. I think the Blue Jays have 3 games in a row, 2 games in a row now. Red Sox have lost 3 in a row. You know, there's only a half game difference between the Rays and the Blue Jays, which is crazy to me because the Toronto Blue Jays still have a 95% chance of making the playoffs. The Rays currently, and I say currently because they're going to play them for a 5-game series in September, but currently the Rays hold the tiebreaker over the Blue Jays. The Rays also hold a tiebreaker over the Mariners. They hold a tiebreaker over basically every team that's behind them in the AL wildcard until you get to Minnesota. Minnesota is in 5th position right now. But we know that the Rays have the 3rd hardest remaining schedule to finish out the season. We've talked about this a lot because September is damn scary. September is like walking through a haunted house if you're the Tampa Bay Rays. You gotta be careful because you don't know what's going to be around the corner. If you look at the schedule is daunting. 3rd hardest remaining schedule. The Blue Jays have the 14th hardest remaining schedule. We're talking about a difference of 0.541 versus 0.504. It's not a ridiculous gap. Yet we're talking about a team that has a 12% better chance of making the playoffs than the Rays, and it's not that different. Look at the Yankees. The Yankees got a 481 remaining schedule, which is 20th hardest. Like, that's if the Blue Jays are where the Yankees are, and we're talking about the Rays having the 3rd most difficult schedule and the Blue Jays having the 20th and a 481 versus a 541. Now I understand where the difference is between an 83 and a 95% chance of making the playoffs. I just don't see that much of a difference between a 541 and a 504. I don't. So when we're talking about, hey, this is the difference, I don't understand where that difference is. NBA, the NBA's got some thinking to do. Adam Silver's got some thinking to do. Chet Holmgren got injured at Jamal Crawford's crossover Pro-Am. Actually got injured guarding LeBron James. And it's likely a severe foot injury. And they're saying that the initial diagnosis is that he has several torn ligaments in his foot. Speaking from experience, give me a broken or a fractured bone 1,000 times over before you give me torn ligaments. I have broken bones. I have sprained ankles. I've torn ligaments. I've torn muscles. There is nothing like torn ligaments, man. Torn ligaments is the worst. That is by far, for me, was the most painful thing that I've ever experienced. Give me that any day of the week. Give me broken bones over torn ligaments any day of the week. Don't care. Don't want to deal with torn ligaments. It's painful as hell. So that I feel bad for Chet Holmgren in that respect, but I mean, it is what it is, right? Is this going to stop? Is this going to make the NBA prevent players from playing in Pro-Ams and pickup games and things like that? It's possible. It's possible that Adam Silver and the owners come together and say, hey, guys, we can't do this anymore. Chet Holmgren, if it's torn, if he tore ligaments in his foot, he's going to miss the majority of the season. I think when I tore ligaments in my ankle, I think I missed like 6 months. Obviously, that was I didn't have the best doctors, right? I was in high school. They didn't give a shit. I still had to go to class, and that's all my parents cared about. That's what my teachers cared about. That's what the coach cared about. Well, you can come back when you can come back. Doesn't matter if you're our starting power forward. Doesn't matter if you're a leading scorer and leading rebounder. Go get your homework done. Chet Holmgren is going to miss a lot of time. So there's a possibility that Adam Silver and the owners look and go, yeah, we can't have this anymore, guys. Which sucks because there's such a dead, desert, dry heat period in the NBA offseason to where it is nothing going on. And it's just super annoying. Like, that's not what we want. We don't want to have to, it's boring, it's really, it's unfortunate. And it's sad. Like, we don't want to have to deal with that. Like, we don't want to miss time, and we don't want to miss off-season play. That's the great thing about when LeBron James showed up to the Drew. Basketball fans are weird. Social media basketball fans are super weird. LeBron James will show up in the Drew League. He'll show up at the crossover and they'll go, yep, he's playing against Geek Squad technicians. Who cares? You're bringing excitement to the game of basketball off season in a time that is not exciting for basketball. Like, how many times can we listen to Kyrie Irving wants to go to the Lakers? How many times can we listen about to players are buying houses and dirt? Like, I would rather watch LeBron James play against a Comcast Xfinity installer than have to continue to listen about Kevin Durant and the Brooklyn Nets are at odds, which they're not anymore. But it brings excitement. And if they end up nixing it, it's going to be very disappointing because LeBron James showing up to the crossover, to the Drew League, brought a lot of attention and brought a lot of eyes. Whether you like LeBron James or you don't like him, the media follows him the same they do with Tom Brady. If LeBron James misses Lakers training camp and winds up on a TV show, you don't think the media is going to go just as crazy as they did with Tom Brady? It's going to be identical. That's what happens when you're this famous. Wherever you go, there you are, guys. Like, that's it. But how is it any different if I'm participating in the Drew League, right? Let's say I'm participating in the Drew League. How is it any different? How is it any different? How is it different if you're going to go and participate in the NBA All-Star Weekend? Let's participate in that, right? Let's say that I participate in the skills contest and I tear my ACL. Is that really any different than me tearing my ACL at the crossover Pro-Am? Or is it looked at differently because I tore my ACL on an NBA watch? My coach, my owner, they're all going to be just as disappointed regardless. Right? Like it's one of those things to me where you're like, is it that bad? I understand like you don't want your players getting injured, right? Like nobody wanted Jason Pierre-Paul to have to lose half of his hand by lighting fireworks on the 4th of July, but it happened. If I'm a basketball player and we don't have any team activities going on and I want to go play basketball, I don't see why there's anything wrong with that, because if I get injured doing that, that's the same as me getting injured while I'm participating in something that doesn't matter for the NBA, like playing in the All-Star game, competing in the dunk contest. That's largely part of the reason why a lot of these superstar guys don't participate in these things. We've heard LeBron James say it before. People can say what they want to say about LeBron James, not wanting to lose in the dunk contest or whatever, but he's said this before as well. Like, it's not worth the risk of the injury. What happens if I participate in this and I tear my ACL or I blow out my ankle? It's no different, right? It's not an actual NBA game. It can't just be different because I don't know. I don't know. It's such an annoying thought process and an annoying conversation to have. Does Chet Holmgren largely going to miss probably a big portion of the season? Does that affect Paolo Banchero's journey towards the Rookie of the Year campaign? I don't think it does. And I'm not saying this because Paolo Banchero slighted the Orlando Magic during his workout with them. I don't care about that. If the Orlando Magic decided they were going to go with Chet Holmgren, fine. They were going to go with Jabari Smith, fine. I think they made the right decision in keeping it very quiet that they were going to go for Paolo Banchero, and they decided to do it. What the hell? But I don't think that this is going to affect, because I don't think that the players are even close to the same level. Sure, Holmgren can stretch the floor, but we know he's going to need to beef up. I know it's not a physical game like it used to be, but he's still, the guy is like a stick out there. We saw him get worked in Summer League. If a guy is backing him down that weighs 40 pounds more than he does, because what does Chet Holmgren weigh? Like $190 soaking wet? He's going to have to beef up a little bit. But I don't think that he possesses the intangibles that Paolo Banchero does. And I don't think that it matters if we only saw a small sample size of Banchero in the Summer League and play 2 games. We saw what he can do offensively at the crossover Pro-Am. He dropped 50 points. DeJounte Murray had a nice dunk over him. That's great. But when was the last time we saw a rookie come in and be able to just dominate everything like Paolo Banchero is, right? Like, he's directing traffic. He's holding teammates accountable. He's leading by example. And he hasn't even taken a regular season tip-off yet. Like, he hasn't even played a single second of a regular season, and he's already shown the intangibles. There's nobody on the Oklahoma City Thunder that are going to look at Chet Holmgren and be like, hey, what do you think we should do? Paolo Banchero's already put that hat on. Does Keegan Murray step up? Does Jaden Ivey step up? I think Keegan Murray is 3rd favorite. Jaden Ivey is 4th. I think they're actually tied. You know, Jabari Smith was largely invincible. He was totally invisible for the Houston Rockets. He had one good Summer League game, and then he was basically non-existent. He wasn't utilized, and he was just kind of there. That could have been by design, sure. But Jabari Smith was also a guy that the Orlando Magic were highly, highly tied to. Would it have been the same had the Magic drafted him? Would he have been kind of a non-existent guy? I feel like Paolo Banchero, the personality that this guy has, I think that he is the type of player that will sit. He took that number 1 overall pick. He put the cap on. He put a feather in his hat and said, let's get to work. I'm going to show you why I was the number 1 pick. Whether he's cocky about it, whether he's a leader about it, whether he's all of these things combined, I think that is what is going to become the future for the Orlando Magic, and it's going to lead them into a much different season heading into the regular season. And we're 2 months away from the regular season. We're a month away from training camp and preseason. Like, we've got a lot of good, positive things going for the Orlando Magic. And I don't think that Chet Holmgren missing any amount of time, whether it's a week, whether it's half the season, obviously if it's the full season, that has literally no effect, but I don't think that it matters. I think that Paolo Banchero is the odds-on favorite to win Rookie of the Year. I think Jaden Ivey is being slept on in Detroit, but Detroit's got a lot of question marks. They've also got a lot of young guys that want the ball. So I think it's going to be a little bit different for Jaden Ivey than it is going to be for Paolo Banchero. Yeah, we know we know Cole Anthony wants the ball. We know that Franz Wagner is going to need the ball. We know that Markelle Fultz is going to need the ball. Like, we know what is what. But I feel like all of these guys are young enough to where if they look to Paolo Banchero for leadership, I don't think that it matters. Right? If you've got a team of veterans, I think that's where it's different. Look at like when LeBron James was drafted. I'm not comparing the two, but I'm comparing the scenario. Look when LeBron James was drafted by the Cleveland Cavaliers. They were on the ripe end of the banana in terms of age, right? Zydrunas Ilgauskas was older. Larry Hughes was older. Most of his teammates were older guys. A large part of people will look at that and go, yeah, that's why he had bums. LeBron James had nobody good. LeBron James had Zydrunas Ilgauskas was good. You got to remember, he was so good that LeBron James recruited him to come to Miami after LeBron went to Miami. If he was that bad, LeBron would not have recruited him to come to Miami with him to win a title. But the scenario is different. That's what, like, you've got all of these young guys. They only won 22 games. So if you hitch your wagon to somebody like Paolo Banchero, who was your number 1 overall pick, who is supposed to be your franchise player, who is supposed to be the face of the franchise going forward, it's not a bad thing. And I think everybody on this team understands that because they're all young enough. And I think that Paolo Banchero also will instill that competitive nature in all of the teammates, in all of everyone, in all 4 other starters. Maybe it works with Jonathan Isaac. You know, I saw something about a trade for Jonathan Isaac to the Indiana Pacers. It was Buddy Hield and a top 12 protected pick for next season for Jonathan Isaac. And a lot of people are going, absolutely not. No way. No. Why would we do that? It's Jonathan Isaac. Jonathan Isaac is just as unknown as that top 12 protected pick is going to be. He hasn't played in 2 years. You no longer know what to expect from him. We would love if he would come back and he would dominate in the 6-man role. But we just don't know. He is an unknown commodity at this point, just like any draft pick is, because it's been such a long time since he's seen the floor. And Buddy Hield is a damn good player. So if the Indiana Pacers call me up, I'm definitely thinking about that offer because we're in rebuild mode and we don't know if Jonathan Isaac is in the blueprint for that rebuild anymore because we don't know what we have with this player. And I am always a strong believer. Look, if this is the NFL, I say screw it, don't do it. Because draft picks in the NFL don't necessarily mean anything. Draft picks in the NBA mean everything. This is how you properly rebuild in the NBA, is through the draft. So make it happen. If that's a legitimate trade offer, make it happen. If Jonathan Isaac comes back and he tears it up for the Indiana Pacers, it's a risk worth taking, in my opinion. Get that top 12 protected draft pick, get a good player in Buddy Hield, and make it happen. That's going to wrap it up for us today. Ran a little bit over. I like when we run over because that means that we had a lot of good conversation and good things to talk about. Make sure you follow us on all the social media networks. Search for the Channelside Sports Network. Starting next week, we're going to start being live on TikTok as well. I said it. Live on TikTok as well. So make sure you head over there. That is one of the social media platforms. If you search for Channelside Sports Network, you'll find us anywhere. TikTok, Pinterest, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. We're literally, guys, we're everywhere. Make sure you follow us over there as well. Thank you for everybody who tuned in. Hopefully you enjoyed the show today. Obviously, we'll be back tomorrow. This is Channelside in the Morning, live from the Channelside Sports Network. I am Danny.